Welcome to Ask Cadence, everybody. I'm Pete Wright. I am sitting around the Cadence round table here with the lovely and talented Rob Bremer.
Well, I don't know about the lovely, but thanks, Pete. It's good to see you, too.
And joining us again this week, Sean Harry from Oregon Career Management Solutions and ASTD. Sean, welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We had a conversation last week that was too short on resources for finding for getting yourself trained, doing a career skill assessment, and what came out of the after conversation, the post show discussion that we did not air is this whole discussion about funds. And I think, Rob, it was you who said at the end of the day, it all comes down to funds. And we all know that even in a volatile economy, even in an era where training and development dollars might be constrained, there is still a responsibility on the project management side, on the engineering side, to get your people trained if it is appropriate. So what do you do to think proactively to figure out a way that the project wins if it concerns training? Can you fill us in on your thinking there? I think it's a worthy discussion.
Well, thanks for asking, Pete. I think what we're talking about doing here is inviting project managers and HR directors of training to expand their typical thinking just because of the nature of their training and their backgrounds and look outside the box in terms of finding solutions, both individually and for an organization. If you are typically in one of those positions, you get funding from a manager or you get funding from a sponsor, and they either write the check or they don't write the check. And if they say the budget is cut or the money is going to be diminished, then you would typically feel that that's the end of the subject. It's time to go home. But there are some alternate ideas. What we would propose at Cadence is the idea of looking outside the box. Here's an example. Let's make it very pragmatic. Let's say that you are a manufacturer and you're working with a supplier. What about going to the supplier and saying, we have a common issue and we have a common situation. If we take a look at training on your side and our side, joint training, it is something that we can share the load, but we can also both reap the benefits. If you are the vendor supplying to a larger firm, you might also think, it's worth my time to approach them with this idea because I can show them that if we both approach this training situation together, we can have reduced costs or improve quality or change the cycle of delivery time. Therefore, it's worth doing. What I'm talking about, to sum this side up, is the idea of the project manager or the HR training director thinking about how to expand and reallocate the source for how they pay for training, either over time or sharing the load, distributing it elsewhere.
It's more than just building training into your project plan. It's addressing training from a very tactical, project-based need to ensure that everybody, core and extended teams, are all speaking the same vernacular. You get maybe collateral benefits that you might not have had if you were just to approach it from a traditional, isolated, or discrete training and development model too. There may be some additional benefits that you could realize in this model. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And let's say, as an example, your funding has been cut. And let's say it's been diminished. There's some small amount, but maybe only 10% of what you had before. Well, instead of having a whole seminar where 20 or 30 people go into a situation where they are all trained, what if you invite a seminar leader or a speaker, an expert, to come in and moderate a conversation? Because training can occur when the experts on your project team are led and moderated in a conversation as well.
I think that's a fantastic idea, but it does bring up an interesting point. And Sean, I wonder if you could comment on this. If you're working in an organization where you are a training and development professional and you're responsible for delivering results to the organization, your budget has been cut. You're not in a specific project management role. You're not working on a specific team. How do you continue to build and deliver results when your organization is taking this more proactive, tactical approach to training, getting it done themselves?
You know, it's a great question. Most training and development people don't think strategically at the project level, like you're talking about. And a lot of times if somebody comes to them and says, if the manager comes to them or the board comes and says, look, your funds are cut. You can't do this project anymore. A lot of times they'll kind of roll over and say, okay, I can't do my job. I can't do that part of my job. I think that's a mistake on the individual level, because one of the things that we try to teach people and encourage people to do in taking responsibility for their own, career management, their own career development, is to find ways that they can, for lack of a better word, be the hero. How can you show your value to the organization? And if a training person, a manager, training and development person will begin to think strategically at the project level, then perhaps they will want to make the case back to their upper level management and say, look, if you cut training out of this project, here's how it's going to affect the whole project. If you cut this back to this level, this is how it's going to affect the whole project. That's where it requires training people to understand spreadsheets and project management and all of that stuff that you were just talking about. Basically, you want to get to the people, and one of the things you want to do is say, what are the issues here? Why is this funding being cut? How can I help you solve your problem, both financially, and how can I help you solve the problem that's going to come about by not having training in place for the people who are going to be working on this project?
I think I can build off of that, what you're talking about there, because at that individual level, I think one of the skills involved would be a negotiation skill.
Absolutely.
A strategy where you could take negotiations to other managers, maybe peers, maybe people above you, and say, let's talk about ways we may share or reallocate assets, perhaps ways that we could borrow from a project in the future or alter something in the future to address a need now, because in the long term it will be beneficial.
Well, and what's going to happen if that training manager does exactly what you just said earlier, which is to go back to suppliers or vendors and say, hey, we have an issue that we need training. Can we share the responsibility for this? Can we share the load in some way? And you can negotiate with those vendors or those suppliers or whoever it is up and down the value chain. You can negotiate with them that they will take on some of that load. And you can come back to your manager and say, hey, I have a solution. We need to put in this much, and these people are going to be putting in this much. There we go. Again, it's back to your project management, thinking strategically, having all of those tools in place to help solve the business needs of the organization.
What a wonderful solution. You're talking about having project managers being more proactive about the training that they need to deliver for their team, and having training and development managers and directors thinking more proactively about how to facilitate a training and development discussion around the key strategic needs,
yes,
and not just global training initiatives, make sure everybody is getting trained on the same things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very strategic, very focused, very tactical. That is a great outcome. This is a good discussion. Again, too short, but thank you, gents, for sitting down and talking about this. We will see you next week on Ask Cadence.
Thank you, Pete. Have a good day.
Take care.
Learn the skills you'll need to develop your personal skill audit and enroll in a Cadence project management seminar near you. Learn more at cadencemc.com. To learn more about our guest, Dr. Sean Harry, visit him online at Career Management Solutions, www.orcms.com. Dr. Harry is a regular blogger and host of the Perfect Career Podcast, available in the iTunes Store.